Welcome to Photo City. I'm here with another one of the exhibitors. I'm here with Linda Wisdom. Now, you describe yourself as a documentary photographer, a street photographer, and a landscape photographer. The first thing I want to dig into is what is the difference between documentary photography and doing street photography?
Well, street photography is more based on public photography, where you're out in the streets or public place, and the public is your content. But documentary is more of a news-based documentary style of photography. So they both are similar, but one will be newsworthy and one will be just like everyday life in the street, and you're capturing the moment as it happens in the street. So, yeah.
You talk about being a cityscape photographer as well as a street photographer. What's the difference in approach when you're getting a person into your lens and you're getting the view into your lens?
I kind of try and use both in the scene. Sometimes the cityscapes have just an urban environment and there's no person involved in the scene, and that can still pick up atmosphere and attitude and mood to a picture, but the human element side of it is part that I use in the street photography side of it. So they're similar, but one has people involved and one doesn't. That's my interpretation of cityscapes. Yeah.
And I've been looking at your photography and enjoying your photography. One of the things that struck me is the thing that some street photographers abide by this idea, and some people abhor this idea, I know, but the idea of the decisive moment, that there's a shot that you take and a fraction of a second before and a fraction of a second after is the wrong shot and the right moment is the right shot. I do look at your photography and I do think there's a decisive moment in there. Is that something that you believe in?
Yes, especially if I'm shooting a portrait, a natural candid portrait. I like eye contact, for example, and I'll get the eye contact but shoot it just before they react or change. And I think that's my decisive moment in those kind of styles. If there's a story to be told or a specific moment happening, I will time it so I can see it all lining up and things fall into place. And then I'll take the shot, or I'll take a few shots, and at 3 I'll pick the one that is the decisive moment from that. Yeah.
Now, you're all, as well as being a photographer, in a way that a lot of photographers sustain themselves. You teach, you do workshops, you do photo walks. Photo walks in particular are an interesting thing that photographers do, that I think if you're outside the world of photography, you're probably not aware of what they are or why they are. What is a photo walk?
A photo walk is just either a planned route or a non-planned route. It can be a group thing, it can be a solo thing where you go around your city, your town, and let moments come to you, or you find moments, and that's generally a set you walk. You're just looking out for things happening in the street and falling your way, stories to tell, documenting anything you see. So workshop is completely different. A photo walk is just a photo walk where you're going from A to B, doing a full route, and then coming back with what you've got on your memory card, basically. Yeah.
And did I read somewhere that you're with Airbnb with other people, you're doing photo walks and being a kind of guide for photo walks? Is that right?
So Airbnb found me. I already did workshops already, and they started the new Airbnb experiences where they were looking for someone in London to do street photography walks, and that involves a partial teaching, kind of in class, but based in a cafe. You sit and talk and go through different subjects of street photography, maybe composition, content, confidence boosting, and then we go out and shoot, and I give them kind of like guides and point out, things to look out for, and try and train their eyes basically if they're a beginner, because it's hard to see things when you're a beginner to, out and about. So I give them the tools, and it's up to them to go out and practice thereafter and get the shots they need afterwards. So.
That is an interesting. There's somebody who's taught art, I've taught like music and other arts. The idea that you're teaching a creative craft, how do you actually go about teaching somebody? Because there is an element of technical knowledge that they need, and there's an element of, you know, that kind of ephemeral creativity that you need to teach. How do you go about teaching somebody both the technical side that doesn't blow their mind and how to be an artist with a camera?
I try to break it down as basically as I can. I explain what aperture does, I explain what shutter speeds do, and then I give them tasks and challenges to try and create a style of photo. For example, for maybe motion or motion blur, I say try to set in the shutter speed for style, you know, lower it or speed it up and see what happens. And then aperture, if you want to blur at the background, do this or do that. So they understand the technical side that way by doing, basically, and practicing. On the creative side, I kind of to give them little tasks to do to enhance their pictures. So creatively, I'll say look out for strong characters for an hour, pick up people who stand out from the crowd for a bit. Maybe the next hour, try and see like colours that pop or a colour matched, or try and get some kind of story. So I kind of break it down to bits.
Yeah.
And by the end, they kind of put it all together and it comes to one kind of thing. So
you're kind of producing like individual studies of areas of creativity, and then hopefully they can go out and take a photo.
It's about developing your eye, because as a beginner you don't see these things. You've got to train your brain and your eyes to start seeing these things. So I break it down, practice, and then you will start to see and get the creative side out of it as well. Yeah.
Now, I think a photographer is the person behind the camera, not just the camera, but cameras are important. Tell us about your favourite camera.
At the minute, I have a Panasonic, but I'm going to a Fuji. I'm looking at the Fuji X-T20 at the minute. So,
there's a couple of photographers here. There's another exhibitor I'm going to be talking to later who's not a Fuji user, but he's interested in Fuji. I'm holding a Fuji and I love Panasonic as well. As a street photographer, what are you looking for in a camera? Because I think that I suspect what a street photographer, a portrait photographer, a reportage photographer, landscape photographer, I suspect they look for different things. I know I do. What do you look for in a camera?
Well, the cameras have changed over the years. I used to have DSLRs, and I noticed that I got noticed much more when I had a big DSLR. And my camera's got smaller and smaller, and I kind of figured out what features I needed in my camera. It's a personal thing, as you say. I like kind of a touchscreen. I like to get to my settings pretty fast as well, and going to the menus is not always an option when you see a moment. And this particular Fuji has like the dial speed that I need for my cameras as well. So just specific things that will speed up me not missing a shot, basically, is the best thing for me. And quality-wise, you can't go wrong. Yeah.
And lastly, a sort of theme for today, because we're talking to street photographers, is exactly what you've been talking about, is missing the shot. We all will miss shots. How do you personally deal with the fact that you might have missed that great shot for that week or that month?
Not very well. I can spend literally like a month or two still remembering that shot I missed, but hopefully you learn from that mistake and you don't do it again, but you do that mistake again and you learn again. So yeah.
We'll always have the shot in our heads.
Yeah,
and we can always, it's like who knows, maybe like with the fisherman, where the fish gets bigger with memory, the shot gets better with memory as well. Well, Linda, thank you very much for joining us. I suspect there are going to be people looking at your exhibition that are going to want to meet the artist. So thanks for joining us here at Photo City.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.